Hello friends, and welcome to one of the most interesting camera comparisons of the year. Today, we're comparing the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra against the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Right now, we are recording at 4K at 30 frames per second. Tell me in the comment section below which one do you think has better colors and which one has a better audio.
As always on this channel, we'll start with some samples taken using the main cameras. Before we begin, let me quickly explain how I tested them. Every daylight photo was taken in auto mode, and I didn't edit them afterward to keep things fair. The scene optimizer was turned on for the S25 Ultra, but I didn't use the high megapixel modes since I'm saving that for another video. This way, the focus stays on how the cameras perform in everyday situations. When it comes to regular daylight photos, both devices perform incredibly well. Each has its own strengths that make their pictures stand out, so let me break it down for you. In landscape shots, I noticed that the S25 Ultra produces slightly brighter and more vibrant images. On the other hand, the iPhone 16 Pro Max captures photos that are a bit darker but with colors that look more natural. In some samples, like this one, the differences are much more noticeable. The S25 Ultra shows a more vivid sky, and even the red tones of the building look much more saturated. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, on the other hand, has more muted colors. Both implementations are great, and it really comes down to personal preference for which one you like better. Personally, I prefer the vibrant photos from the S25 Ultra. While I can't deny that the iPhone 16 Pro Max takes equally impressive pictures, the images from the S25 Ultra appeal more to my eyes. I find myself leaning towards its brighter and more colorful results. If you prefer pictures with natural colors, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is likely the better choice for you. But if you enjoy pictures with vibrant, eye-catching colors that are ready to share on social media, the S25 Ultra might be the better option. Both devices also come with ultra-wide cameras, and right away, I noticed some differences. The iPhone 16 Pro Max tends to produce warmer colors, while the S25 Ultra leans more toward cooler tones. After closely comparing the samples side by side, I also found that the S25 Ultra delivers slightly sharper pictures. The new and improved ultra-wide camera on the S25 Ultra appears to be a nice upgrade over its predecessor. As you can see here, both pictures look great, but, similar to the main lenses, they show noticeable differences in colors and saturation. Personally, I prefer Samsung's approach here, where the shadowed areas are a bit brighter and more visible. While its pictures may not be as color accurate as those taken with the iPhone, it's a trade-off I'm willing to make for brighter dark areas in the photos. The ultra-wide camera on the iPhone 16 Pro Max is one of the best in the industry, consistently capturing sharp images. However, I believe the ultra-wide camera on the S25 Ultra has now surpassed it, offering photos with more detail and clarity. For example, in this shot, the entire image on the S25 Ultra seems to have a natural level of sharpening, while on the iPhone, the sharpening appears a bit more aggressive, which doesn't look as pleasing. Additionally, the colors on the new Galaxy phone are noticeably better. Now let's test their zoom capabilities. At 2x, both retain a lot of detail, even though they use digital zoom. The S25 Ultra is a bit sharper around my face and hair, but the 16 Pro Max is almost just as good. Surprisingly, my skin tone is more accurate on the Galaxy. At 3x, the S25 Ultra switches to its first telephoto sensor, while the iPhone continues with digital zoom. Unsurprisingly, the S25 Ultra retains more of my facial details, but the iPhone doesn't look bad at all. Of course, it isn't on par with the Galaxy, but it's still good. At 5x, they switch to their periscope sensors, and honestly, both look fantastic. They retain my facial details, and even my hair stripes are in focus on both devices. The images are very similar, even when it comes to my skin tone, as both are accurate and closely match each other. When we zoom all the way to 10x, both devices lose a bit of detail, with the iPhone taking a slightly bigger hit. The S25 Ultra performs really well, my face is sharp, and my hair remains in focus. In this other sample at 2x, we can see that both perform well, but the Ultra is a bit brighter, while the iPhone has slightly darker colors. Both, however, are really good. At 3x, just like earlier, the Ultra is sharper because it uses the 3x sensor, while the iPhone zooms in digitally. While the difference isn't as noticeable, it's worth mentioning. At 5x, both continue to perform well, with plenty of detail. The dynamic range is also on point on both phones, and there isn't a clear winner. On the other hand, at 10x, the S25 Ultra is sharper, while the iPhone starts to lose details. This clearly shows that Samsung's Ultra lineup is still the better device when it comes to the zoom category. Both phones use their ultra-wide cameras for macro photography, and both perform well in this area. The S25 Ultra is sharper than the iPhone and offers more contrast in its colors, though the 16 Pro Max is still decent. On the S25 Ultra, you can also use the periscope sensor for macro pictures. On the iPhone, using the same sensor, this is the closest you can get to taking a shot, and even at this distance the image isn't as clear. If macro photography is important to you, the S25 Ultra offers more options. Now let's take a look at some portrait shots. As you can see, portraits taken with their main cameras are simply stunning. The iPhone is a bit brighter around my clothes and face, but in my opinion, the S25 Ultra has really stepped up its game, and it looks just as good, if not better. The colors also appear livelier on the Galaxy. When we take portraits at 5x, we can see a big difference. The iPhone is very sharp, but the entire image looks a bit over-sharpened, which I'm not a fan of. The S25 Ultra, on the other hand, is fantastic. My skin tone is accurate, and my facial details are well preserved, yet the image doesn't appear as over-sharpened as the iPhone. In this other example, once again, we can see a significant difference in processing. The picture taken with the iPhone has muted colors, while the one taken with the Galaxy is lively and vibrant. While both are great pictures, I personally preferred the S25 Ultra here. If you're enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing to my channel. When switching to their front cameras, both continue to deliver exceptional results, and I'm happy with them. If I had to pick a winner here, I would choose the iPhone because I think my skin tone looks a bit more accurate. In terms of details, both are quite similar. In this other sample, they are almost identical, and honestly, I'm surprised by how similar they are to each other. Both pictures have plenty of detail, and my skin tone looks accurate. I'm happy to see that they perform this well. When it comes to videos, iPhones have always been ahead of the Android competition, but this time, I think the S25 Ultra is doing a fantastic job. Based on what I'm seeing, its video quality is actually better. The iPhone has muted colors, and the sky in the background looks a bit overexposed, while the S25 Ultra manages to perfectly expose the sky. In terms of stabilization, they seem to be identical. They continue to impress equally, even when recording with their ultra-wide cameras. The iPhone has slightly more accurate colors, while the S25 Ultra adds a more vibrant, colorful tone to the scene. This makes it better suited for social media, where eye-catching colors tend to stand out more. The improvements made to the Ultra, especially in its video performance, are definitely worth praising. Periscope sensors usually aren't the best for video recording, especially when there are moving things in the frame, but these two are totally different and they have fantastic stabilization. In this scene, the S25 Ultra seems to be a bit brighter, and I kind of prefer the more natural colors of the iPhone, but besides that, its video is just as good. Moving to low light, and when it comes to their front cameras compared to daylight, we can see that they have different implementations. The iPhone tends to brighten the images to the point that they look as if they were taken with the flash enabled. The Galaxy, on the other hand, looks more in line with how a night mode should work. In this other sample, they are closer to each other, with both devices performing great. Still, I'll give this round to the S25 Ultra because it retained more of my facial details, especially around my eyes. My hair, on the other hand, is better handled by the iPhone. When it comes to low-light pictures taken with their main cameras, these two devices are some of the best in the industry. They have slightly different styles, but the results they produce are stunning. In this particular sample, both are really good, but as you can see, the iPhone handled the lights a bit better. In other samples, like here for example, the results switch, with the iPhone now being brighter and the Galaxy being darker and more accurate. Honestly speaking, I can't pick a winner because both are amazing. In terms of details, I think Samsung is ahead. Like I said earlier, they both have their own distinctive style. Even without showing the names, users can pretty much know which picture is taken by which phone, and this just shows consistency between them. I think with samples like this, it all comes down to personal preference. While both take amazing low-light pictures, in some cases, like here, I noted that the iPhone tends to overexpose some light sources, while the S25 Ultra is doing much better. These samples were rare, and it shouldn't affect the overall experience. In previous years, when switching to their ultra-wide cameras, I had to mention that they dropped in quality, but this year it is different since their ultra-wide cameras are almost on par with their main cameras. Sure, they still aren't at the same level, but the difference this year is tiny. The new and improved ultra-wide camera of the S25 Ultra is a tad bit ahead of the one found on the 16 Pro Max, which is already great itself. I like Samsung's method of making the images brighter without losing the night ambience. The iPhone is also sharp and detailed, just a bit darker. As you know, brighter doesn't always mean better, and in this next sample, I think the iPhone took a slightly better picture. While the picture taken with the S25 Ultra is really good on its own, I think it just isn't at the same level as the 16 Pro Max. The S25 Ultra recovers in the next scene by handling the background lights better than the iPhone, which is struggling a bit. I will say, however, that a clear winner isn't possible since both phones take great pictures, and while one device wins in one case, the other recovers in the next one, and so on. At 2x, both continue to deliver fine results, with the S25 Ultra being sharper around my face and clothes and the iPhone being smoother but actually a bit more pleasing to the eyes. This is a bit more pronounced when we take pictures at 3x. Now, the S25 Ultra uses its telephoto sensor, which does the job, but it isn't at the same level as its other cameras. The iPhone continues with digital zoom, but surprisingly, it is still keeping up well despite not being as detailed. At 5x, both switch to their periscope sensors, and here we can see that my face is much more detailed on the S25 Ultra. On the iPhone, some of my facial details aren't as preserved, and even my hair is a bit messy. In this specific sample, I definitely prefer the S25 Ultra. Once again, at 2x, both are fine, with the S25 Ultra handling the lights a bit better but with the iPhone being smoother. At 3x, the difference becomes bigger in favor of the S25 Ultra, with its image retaining more details. Although this is its weakest lens, I still prefer having a dedicated 3x sensor rather than relying on digital zoom. At 5x, both are extremely detailed, but the difference in color is huge, to the point that you might think these are different buildings. In real life, the color of the building is somewhere in between, so neither of them is accurate. At 10x, both lose details since, at this point, they both rely on digital zoom. While none of these pictures are detailed, if I had to choose, I'd go for the S25 Ultra since, to me, it seems just a bit sharper. When it comes to night portraits in this sample, I undeniably prefer the S25 Ultra. Both portraits are also taken with night mode enabled, but here only the S25 Ultra made my face brighter and well separated from the background colors. The iPhone is more on par with how the scene was in real life, but for portraits, I like when the attention is on me. In the next sample, they aren't as different, and here the iPhone is performing much better than before. Still, I don't really like the warm colors in its picture. I think the picture taken with the S25 Ultra is once again better. So guys, what do you think? Which one was your winner? Personally, I love how both phones are reliable, but I think the improvements of the S25 Ultra give it an edge over the iPhone 16 Pro Max. While they are mostly similar, I believe the Galaxy is now slightly ahead. If you did enjoy this video, then a thumbs up would be appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.